take a peek behind the curtains, and you'll find that recording a podcast conversation is a fascinating and somewhat unique experience. In that moment, the guest and host are speaking privately, sharing their thoughts and stories just with each other. Yet, they do so knowing that their words will later reach thousands of listeners, each experiencing the conversation in their own way, shaped by their own perspectives and reflections. At Insight Myanmar podcast, we try to conjure up the image of our listeners as though you are seated here with us, a third chair at the table, so to speak, which helps us create the feel of a more intimate conversational experience. So, as you listen, we hope that you can lean into this connection and join us in exploring these stories and discover where they may take you. Welcome to the conversation. We're glad you're here. On this episode of Inside Myanmar podcast, we're pleased to welcome Saw Bosco. Saw Bosco has lived Myanmar struggles from the inside out. Raised in a small Catholic community in Mandalay, Saw Bosco grew up navigating life as a double minority, as we'll get into in this interview. These are experiences that shaped his later work with activism, interfaith peace marches, and the founding of National Youth Congress. He went on to serve as a technical advisor within the national ceasefire agreement talks, where he witnessed firsthand how a process celebrated internationally often masked deep flaws and military dominance. Since the coup, Bosco has turned his focus to teaching federalism and democracy, the grassroots, very important subjects and activities, documenting the exploitation of farmers and the devastation of Sagaing, and contributing to the NUCC's Federal Democracy Charter. As you'll see in the discussion that follow, his story weaves together different threads of faith, activism, and hard-won lessons from both village life and high-level negotiations into a vision for a federal future in Myanmar. So with that introduction, Saw Bosco, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Inside Myanmar podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me to have a chance to speak in here, and I'm happy to speak more on the detail, like what I had experienced, like working with the community and the people for the nation building of Myanmar too. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'd like to get first into your background because it's quite unique. This is you come from a background of Bayingyi, and for those listeners who are not familiar with the term Bayingyi, this is a small Catholic community descended from Portuguese settlers many centuries ago, who were absorbed into the dry zone, and both their faith and their distinct identity has been carried through generations, often surrounded by Buddhist-majority villages. So this double marker, this being Catholic, being Bayingyi, this has made this community you're a part of both unique and vulnerable, especially now with the church burnings and the targeted attacks in Sagaing and the marginalization of ethnic Christian communities. So I'd like to start off by learning a bit more about who the Bayingyi are, their history, their culture, and what it has meant for you personally to grow up as part of this community in Myanmar.
Well, very firstly, to explain about the history of the Bayingyi people is a little bit complex, like to recognize by the people who are living in there, but at the same time, like historically, like recognized by the state as well. So Bayingyi are like kind of the people who came from the Portuguese descendants of the deep riddle, uh, as known as the Nzinga, and from the Danlin region. After the dispute cases in Danlin, and they have been sent off to the central area, like as a guy region as the exile, and they have been living and integrating with the people from Anya at that time. So basically, these people came from the other country, and their livelihood is very different compared with the host community in the central area. So their livelihood setup was very differently and adapted it in the agricultural sector. So they have very limited capacity to adapt in this agricultural sector. They have these butchering things, especially selling the beef and the pork in those community, and they have been recognizing themselves as the people of Anya and the people of Sagaing region as well at the time. So I mean, ideally, they have a different identity. It is just the religion, but for the culture and all the norms and all the practices, are quite similar with the people from Zagai, and yeah. So they randomly recognize themselves as Anyadu Anyada. So it literally means they recognize themselves as the people from those area, and it's also pretty right in there because no one speak Portuguese in those area, and they speak
Mm.
Burmese very well, and their cultural adaptation is very high, and they recognize themselves as the people of Anya. But only different thing is they are the Catholic believer, and the other people have different. I mean, religious belief like a Buddhist. Sometimes some Muslim community are also living around those area. So some of the significance, the villages in those Portuguese descendant village are Chanda Yua and Chao, the village where most of the Portuguese descendants are living, and Nabat in the Miao township, and nearby the Shuibu, Kinwu, and the other specific villages as well. And as a big city, Chao is significant city where some of the Portuguese communities are Portuguese descendant, the Bayingyi community are living in there too.
So, as you belong to this BNG community, and this, I know this was so many centuries ago. It's not like there's many pockets of Portuguese speakers left, and the bloodlines are so far back. And I understand that Catholicism is as a religion, as a faith, is still present. But for you personally, or the community or family around you, do you feel any connection to those Portuguese ancestors, or is it just history too long ago?
Yeah, it's pretty complicated, to connect on that point because most of our relative and also all the ascenders are based in those area, and they believe themselves as the people from Anya, and their integration was pretty high since in the beginning because it was quite difficult to integrate in that situation and no chance to survive without that recognition as well. So they probably have some kind of sense of ownership to the Catholic Church, maybe kind of differently can recognize as a European blood. But on the other hand, there's no proper connection with the Portuguese, with the country, especially when people were asking, yes, if you are watching the football match, like Cristiano Ronaldo is from the Portuguese, but not all the Bayingyi are supporting Ronaldo. There are high numbers of Messi fan as well. So it means they don't have direct connection with these the country Portuguese in those area. But according to I mean, the the experience from the Catholic Church, kind of the language, like the Latin. Latin was used in the Catholic literature and in the church, Sunday school, and also singing. So they have somehow connected with that language, rather than the country. But it's also highlighted in every young people interest to learn about more Latin language, Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese sometime as well. So it is just a significant thing they got some kind of belonging from that group. Otherwise, we have a kind of more recognition ourselves in this citizen in the country Myanmar rather than the Portuguese. So we never feel like this is the kind of Portuguese descendant means like in blood. We might have it like but in the ideology and also sense of ownership and the practices are totally related and belong to the country Myanmar. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So then moving from this Portuguese background to the wider experience of being a Christian minority in Myanmar, I want to share some quotations about this experience that the previous guests have said on this platform to set up this question. So, one guest we spoke to is a scholar who has written about Christian missionaries and ethnic Christian communities. Her name is Alexandra Kaloyanidis, and she pointed out that, quote, the ethnic Christian experience in Burma largely goes unseen and invisible. These communities have been there for a very long time, but they're just not in the awareness. A second quote I'd like to give comes from Simon, who is in Chin State, and he shared how this plays out on the ground. He said, quote, when the military would arrive in our village, our worship had to be canceled. We lived under fear. And finally, a quote from Mark, who is also Chin, described a deeper wound. He said, in our land, we cannot build our churches the way we want. We need to go and ask permission. And the mountains we hold sacred, the military turned them into pagodas. You've written a different way on this. You've said, quote, it was most evident in damage to minority Christian villages in Sagaing, targeted not only because they resisted, but because of who they were. So, setting all this up, my question is when you hear these past three quotes describing invisibility, disruption of worship, the distortion of sacred spaces, what does that reveal to us, and what can that inform us and share with our listeners about the experience and the struggle of Christians today in Myanmar post coup, especially?
Uh, in that situation, so let me come up with the I mean, two different scenario in even in the Catholic community. Like the first one is like even though the Christian, Catholic, or Protestant, like there are like the people who are living around as the majority, like in Kachin state, Karenni state, Chin state, and maybe somehow in Karen state. So they have a high population in terms of the population, like they are not a minority in there. But in terms of the state, they are state minority. That because like there have been like experience from that people like according to the century like and they have been running during the civil war, and it's also portrayed by the states, especially in New era, like they try to recognize the state as the Buddhist state, and also they try to recognize like these ethnic organizations as the opposition who are promoting Western ideology to the country, and that need to be against, that need to be abolished somehow. Like so, the state already created like for the Christianity like with the limitation, but living in that experience like kind of the majority population Christianity area has less restricted than minority people who are living in the central area or Buddhist majority area like Mandalay region, Sagaing region, and Magui region and Yangon region. Such a kind of area, so they have more struggle than the other area because in the first things in most of the Christian majority area, like for the national ID, it's always come up together with the race and religion. So Myanmar, this the system, especially 1982 citizenship law, is a little bit complicated, like to identify about race and religions as together, like Dayenda as race and ethnicity, and on the other hand, religion is coming together on that category as well. So for the ethnic Christianity, it is not easy, but it's convenient to get the national ID easily because they can be recognized as Kachin Christian, Karen Christian, Karenni Christian, Gaya Christian, so such a kind of thing. But for the different ethnicity or mixed blood who are not recognized as the one ethnicity, it might be difficult to recognize as the Christianity in the policy because this is what they recognize in the stable way, or maybe like kind of how to say like the the format, like they only recognize Bamar supposed to be Buddhist, ethnic people supposed to be Christian, and also like mixed blood supposed to be Muslim and Hindu. So this is the normal category that immigration try to use in there. So for the minority Catholic and the Christian and the Baptist or the Muslim and the Hindus, like why when they are trying to identify themselves as the ethnic group, it's very complicated because they most of the mixed blood and most of these double minority people are not from the homogeneous ethnicity. So they might be mixed blood. Sometimes they might mix with the Bamar people or something. So their recognition is take question mark in most of the big city, and as an impact, like they are struggling to get even the national ID for their own, I mean, citizenship. And on the other, following up as the national ID is not only national ID, passport, and the graduation and the access to the education in the university, and any other things like other follow any other things happen as a follow things as well. So in ideal, like there are always questionable, like to see this issue as the general issue because the experience are different. If we are talking like as the Christianity from the ethnic area, there might be different experience than the Christianity from the double minority community as well, because their experience identifying how the state is creating like a race and religions issue to be more complicated. But on the other hand, they are creating some kind of privilege, like for the one ethnic group and one religion. But on the other hand, it is also can be shifted into the community issue rather than the policy issue. For example, like they in when the election is nearby, like everyone is trying to provide like a national ID for all the minority again, so the people can get the national ID again at the situation. But on the other hand, it also create like okay, if you are the mixed blood, you need to wait the permission from the district office rather than the township office, because district level director general require approval is required for the mixed blood people as well. So that system is already created like a since the Nehru era, and it's still practicing until the civilian so-called civilian government in during the NLD era. So that's why like when we are talking about the experience for the all the Christianity in the conflict and the peace building work, it might be different with the individual group who are living in the different, uh, I mean, Buddhist majority area as well. So I wouldn't say like the whole Christian community is struggling on that side. Of course, like some of the policy are applying for everyone. Like you cannot build the big building of the church, and you cannot build like a kind of uh, religious building in those specific area, and you cannot build these kind of things in those areas. Such a kind of policy are applying for every Christianity across the region. But after the coup, that's more interesting thing like that we learned so far in the central area, because central area is the recruitment ground of the military since before. And according to the statistic, like there are like a more military personnel and also agricultural people and people who are working in the labor and the industrialization are like highest number of the livelihood in the central area. So when they are trying to recruit the people from those area, the people from those area start doing the resistance movement in those areas. So for the military, it's a shocking movement because those area are their area before. So at the time, like we got an example from the one village, like a kind of experience, military person, the military troops, like the guy, that person is the son of the family, and the father became the PDF. So in the battle, like the father and son are fighting each other, and in the same ground. So one is working for the military and one is working for the resistance forces. So that kind of situation create the big dilemma for the military as well. So what is the motivation like to to do the clearance operation in those areas. Like, for example, these troops are burning down their own village. These troops are killing the same kind of ethnic group and religions of their own people. So in this sense, like we saw that the motivation to commit the atrocity is to find the different things in the community as well. So in that situation, like we saw a significant example of the one village called the Chanda village and Changyu village in the war. Like the military troop were writing like kind of the Kala, like it's a kind of discriminated war to the Islam and the Muslim. Like, you guys need to be die, and you and your leaders will be die with the following reason, something like that. So it means like they found some different things in the community, and they try to show up. This is a significant example. Like if these people, uh, these people against to them, something like. So we recognize like this experience as the tools like to create different things or significant things to motivate the people to commit the atrocity, especially for the military troop. If they find like the different things in the ground, like they will start doing like actively, and also they will start committing the mass atrocity on those area compared with the previous motivation as well. But I mean, it does not mean like military troops are only committing to the Christian community. They are committing to everyone, not only the Christian. I mean, to the Buddhist community, Muslim community. Like they were doing all the atrocity brutally, but it can create like a more or like a significant motivation, like to burn down all the to burn down and to commit the atrocity on those area as well. So this is that became like a significant example in the early 2022, in the late 2022, and beginning of the 2023 again. Yes.
There's so many important threads in what you're saying, and it goes in so many different directions, and yet there are some commonalities where all these threads intersect and combine. And one of those that I want to move on next is this issue of diversity, of race, of religion, of identity. Really, what it all comes down to, identity. And as you were talking about the multifaceted identity, the people that are that are sometimes the communities and individuals whose identities seem to be forced to try to lock down and fit inside certain understandings when their lived existence is outside that. Well, when I hear that, I can't but think of the British colonial time when, they came in with real motivations and designs, and technical outlooks in terms of how they wanted to be able to classify who these people were in the new colony that they were trying to take over. And as we know, when the military then took over in 62 and after, then a lot of these formulations that the British colonials had come, they put into race and religion laws. And as you say, largely to be able to promote to promote the idea of the other, of the differences, to be able to suppress, divide, and rule, that same kind of thing. But a lot of this does come back to this issue of identity, and how do you understand identity, race and religion, and ethnicity and diversity, and different mixed bloods and heritage. How does one understand this? And this is a really complicated question, because so much of this comes from British colonial formulation, which was toxic and really erroneous in many ways from the start, and then has been used as mentioned as a tool for oppression. But then added on to this, there are so many places and communities in the country of Myanmar which have not been properly studied because of conflict, because of limited access. And so even just simply, and this whole question of census has also come up, understanding what the census is. So this ties into everything you're saying about the present conflict, both in terms of, we'll get into later, federal democracy and where how equal rights can be assured, but also looking at how does one define identity? How does one enter into this minefield of trying to be a bit more delicate and a bit more respectful and humble about what identity can be, not asserting categories that have been done before, and yet also be have a bit more understanding of accuracy and of background as to as to what communities are and what their makeup is, and as well as one's own individual agency of what one, identity is also a self-constructed mechanism. So when you look at this really thorny question of identity that has really characterized so much of Myanmar's past and recent history, how do you understand it?
Yes. So I have two key things to identify from the different side. So the first one is from the policy side, and anthropologies. So this is most important things for us to recognize. So identity thing was a little bit complicated in the beginning, especially the nation building agenda was not very clear since in the unification. We call it or most of our history started after the Benlong Agreement, but on the other hand, that's not totally true because we have seen kind of the passion from the people and especially from the ethnic leaders about the identity issue since at the time. So this self-determination or administration or a kind of this federalism, confederation was kind of very clear. I mean, it was very clear in the beginning. So they would try to find a different solution. As part of the solution, unification was a kind of a partial solution, to test the country to collaborate and to combine, to synergize as a nation together. But after these chaos happened in that time, after 1945, 46, 47, and also 1962, the coup happened. All the things were cracked down in the differently, and on the other hand, there was the backlash on the ideology and identity issue as well, because the British colonization already created some dividing line among each other. For example, they start created a identity based administrative administration in some of the area in the Chin Hill, and also the Kachin Hill, and also Federated Shan State. So it's already recognized on those area with a specific definition and the ethnic historical and also the cultural background and also their demography. It's already been set up but after the independency, that legacy also create a lot of inter-ethnic dynamic in there, because everyone was talking about 135 tribes issue recognized by the Nehru era and the constitution. But it's already happened since in the beginning, because we did not have kind of the clear agenda and the clear vision for the whole country, how you would like to create, for example, in terms of the ideology, what kind of political ideology you are going to there. So in this political ideology is going to be contradict with the identity based politics sometimes, with the religious thing, so that can be the problem in the future as well. So at the time, many people did not talk a lot on that side. But after the military coup happened in 1962, all the ethnic organizations start their revolution in their way, and it's also create another issue after the creating 135 tribes. So as the minority people, even in the ethnic tribes, it's always difficult to be recognized as the race or the religion in the in the Myanmar community. For example, if you see one ethnic group or tribes A B, they have been categorized by one big ethnic group, and sometimes they have a lot of I wouldn't say like an inequality, but it's kind of like an internet clashes, like each other, because it is normal, ethnic groups and people living in the different villages, and also they have a different belief, they have different tradition, they speak different language, so they have these kind of minor issue. But the way state is try to create is not aiming to the unification, is aiming to create more device, and it's also is giving like a privilege to the central government. Again, central government mean the military at the time, so they got these benefit of devise and conquer and devise and rule. So they create like a small things in the community, and all the community are try to pull their identity for survival, and the other one is for their political recognition. So that create like a more very strong identity based politic. So it means like ethnocentric is more advanced into the identity politics, in their own way. So if you are talking someone else they would like to recognize themselves as their own tribes or ethnic group rather than the whole country, or rather than their big ethnic group as well. So that create like another things in the different layer as well. So for me, ideally, I support all the ethnic revolution. I support all the self-determination. I support all the ethnic people encouragement on their freedom and something. But for the nation thing, it's the different issue. For example, if we want to create the nation, what is the idea thing, to let's say in the federalism we have coming together or holding together, what we would like to create like our nation. So that's a big question mark, and we cannot solve it until now in that sense. So this is the first part, to explain about the people who already have their own identity to solve in the policy and political level, plus the other group who are not recognized as the one ethnic group or one kind of homogeneous, or the other group like a something. So in that stage, where they are going to involve in that situation, statewide, or ethnic based politics, or ethnic based state, or as the citizen, it's a big question matter for the everyone now. Even after the 2021, people were asking each other, we had this kind of conversation among each other, for example, I am mixed blood with this ethnic group A and ethnic group B, who is going to recognize me as which ethnic group? But even for the people who are not speaking in that their on their specific language, that people will be outside of the category in the political level, and also in not only in the political level but also sometimes in the community level as well, because everything was politicized in the political level, and all the representation will come from the purely the leadership from their kind of respective ethnic group as well. So for this kind of misbled, and also for misbled and also misrace, these people are like a kind of big portion of the population in the country now, because this is a human nature. Sometimes you cannot create a people to become to get married with the same category of the people, to get married with only with these people. You cannot stop the people. This is people and the human nature. They can go whatever they want. So that's why I do not agree with that kind of demography things, because these people are supposed to stay in this area because they belong to those areas. No, these people are moving because of the supply chain, because of the struggle, because of the political economy setup. Everyone is changing, and also everything can be changed in that area. That's why institutionalization on the cultural thing and institutionalization on the ethnic political things is the different thing compared with the people practice in that level, because people keep changing, and they might want to get married to from the people from the other community, it can be happen. So at the time, everything is too much politicized, on the race and religions, and especially in the identity thing, like if we are asking to the some other people about the actual sense of belonging of their own identity, it might be the big question mark for them. And I'm also have the same experience like with that things, like because I'm not only the descendant of one ethnic group or one specific group, like I'm also the mixed blood with the other ethnic group as well. But I never had an experience or never had the confidence to work for one ethnic group in a specific category, especially in the peace building work in or in the policy making things, because I have kind of this hesitation, like yeah, if something happened with me, they might recognize me as a mixed blood, and it's going to be the other problem like in the trust level as well. So this is like the key things like we have learned so far from the identity politics. But on the other hand, we have a big group who are recognized as the different ideology on the race and religions and identity issue. Like for example, if somebody is coming from the radical and the leftic like a political ideology, like they don't want to recognize themselves as any ethnic group or the religions as well. If we see, I have seen like so many young people like who recognize themselves as the. I mean, I'm not belong to any ethnic group, and I'm not belong to any religious group. Like I just try to be humanist. Like so, those people who are try to be part of this kind of category, there is no space to work in the nation building agenda as well, because everything is now try to create in the category of race and kind of identity, race and religion are coming together. Like I wouldn't say this is separated, but race and religion. But if somebody would like to talk in the policy level or policy making process, like they will start asking like, where are you from and what is your ethnic group? But in 2021, there are the new dynamic, so which is the rise of the political mobilization in the central area, like Sagaing, Magui, Mandalay, Tanindai region, and Bago region, and Yangon region. So these area, like Sagaing, Magui, Mandalay, has more Bamar majority people, but the other place has a mixed blood, and the people are also living in those areas, like a Yangon. Like we cannot recognize Yangon as the Bamar area because many people are living in there. But like in terms of identity and also religions things like that, there are new different dynamic. This is not about ethnic based identity recognition. This is regional based identity things. So we call it like some people also try to recognize themselves as a regionalist again. Like for example, people from Sagai, people from Yangon, people from Bago, people from Mandalay. So such kind of these are also created a new identity in this political spectrum as well. So we have seen so far not only the ethnic identity and also the religious identity, but also the regional identity after 2021 as well. So this is a new dynamic, like as far as I learned so far.
That's very interesting, and I think as you break down this identity further, it leads just as my previous question bled into the past in terms of the British colonial period leading to the early Burmese military regime. This question I want to set up the future because what you're talking about identity now, it makes me think a lot about where this fits into the federal democracy charter. Because I think if we take a kind of black and white view or at a great distance, and we look at and you're an outsider looking at these groups coming together, I think there's a very simplistic way to suggest, well, we need the Kachin and the Karen and the Rakhine and the Wa and the Mun and the others, and the Christians and the Muslims and the Buddhists and the Hindus. We just need general agreement. You think of like Panglong or something agreement so many years ago. And you just think of these kind of like monolith groups that are coming together to as representatives, of this one group to then say, yes, the Kachin are in, the Karen are in. And obviously that's not how it works, and you're bringing even greater complexity to this, complexity of within individuals having mixed blood, different identities uh, being a mix of regional and ethnic and religious, all those things combined, being identity being an issue that might be dynamic and not static is another one that comes in, as well as one's own agency in terms of how they identify. As you said, do they identify more to the region or the village they're living than the religion or ethnicity? And then, of course, when you're talking about Kachin or Karen or whatever else, it's even those titles get broken down into so many subsets, as you well know. And so taking this complexity into the federal democracy charter, where the goal is to want to have diverse and different communities be able to come together as one, and with and being able to have free to share and enjoy from whatever community they're coming from the same privileges and rights. This is the federal democracy charter. It's an ambitious political document that probably has ever been produced. And I think what's important to mention here is it's not being drafted by generals in Naypyidaw. It's being hammered out through hard discussions with activists, ethnic groups, youth leaders, civil society, under conditions of extreme conflict. And this charter sets out collective leadership, equality among nationalities, a roadmap for dismantling the military state. But you've cautioned that, quote, if the charter remains only a text, it will fail. It must become a culture of federalism lived in daily practice. And so, with that in mind, with this kind of culture of federalism that you hope the charter can create, not just a text, and looking at the culture that it can create among the diversity that we're talking about in terms of how identity can be described and abscribed and claimed. How do you see this culture being built, and what are the most urgent ways the principles of the charter can move from paper into everyday governance in liberated areas?
Yes, I have seen like these federal democracy charters as the roadmap, like to abolish like these military dictatorship and all kinds of dictatorship like in the country. At the same time, like reshaping the rebuilding the nature and the nation state. Like on the other hand, so like the participation was pretty impressive. Like to see compare with the previous time, and also like the development, and like try to recognize like every single corner of the vulnerability of the people. That's kind of the appreciated things like we have been so far. But on the other hand, like in the actual way, like this federal charter is just a roadmap, especially like the kind of political roadmap, like to see how you would like to create the country. But what are the options to build the this everyday, governance system in that liberated area or the whole country, or like in the political dialogue among each other? Like there, this is still question mark like for me, because like the federal democracy charter is supposed to be like that. This is kind of the interim arrangement, so it means we can recognize this one as an interim constitution, and that will converted to the transitional constitution soon. So it means like this is the most important the roadmap on the on this stage. But on the other hand, like for the governance system is a little bit complicated. So as I see, like the first thing is too much like recognizing on the participation of the member. It is like the first thing, because you, if you would like to create like a kind of comprehensive like a constitution or the federal charter, like what are the future nation of the Myanmar in everyone's mind. Like, for example, like if they are seeing this is only for the people who are participating in this NUCC dialogue or something. So it means like they are only creating for those areas specific, like for it, because not all the people are participating in the NUCC process, like a Northern Alliance, and the other people are not in that area. And even in the liberated area, like these other groups are also working in their own way, and they are working with their own governance as well. So in that time, this federal charter cannot recognize by the area, because it will create like a more complex situation in the grounded in the ground situation as well. So for me, this is the first thing, how they are recognizing this federal charter for the whole country as well. But they try to explain in kind of this press conference and the other. This is just only for the principle based federal principle based federal agreement, to draft the federal charter, which is quite similar with the Union Accord in the Myanmar peace process before. It's just only the principle, and it's not the follow up things what we added in the first stage. But after that, they said, everyone can do their own autonomy. Everyone can craft their own transitional constitution, due to their preference and the localized mechanism and their own self-determination plan and division of competency. Such a kind of concept are integrated in those areas. But on the other hand, we see there, okay, this is great because it's very decentralized and everyone can deal with their own agenda and their own nation building, state building plan in ethnic area or the region. It's very decentralized. It's very impressive. But for the whole nation state, it will be a little bit difficult to integrate these all things together in the national level. And on the other hand, yeah, I'm not sure this nation is supposed to be happen or not, because if people, especially the leader from the ethnic state, they said they just want to be alone, or they just so they can do whatever they want because this is their right and this is their decision, and this is the decision of the state, so they can do whatever they want. But for the application to the actual governance is very complicated. If they are recognizing all the political stakeholder in the governance as the race, religions, and the state or region, it will create a lot of problem again, because for example, federal democracy charter is recognizing in the political level, especially it's too much encouraging and too much promising in the political level and political leadership, as we call the elite political leadership. Okay, this is what we would like to discuss, and let's negotiate in this stage, and we can work together. But in the ground, everything is changing day by day. For example, the demography changing, political economy setup is changing, face capitals are changing, supply chain is changing. So it means everyday people are moving. If you are seeing the people from the northern Shan state now, where they are at the moment, they have been struggling with this conflict, everyday airstrike, so they flee to the other place. And after that, these people will try to build their own supply chain again in the other city, like Mandalay or Yangon or the other city. So it means their demography and all of their face capital move to the other place. And some people who are living nearby southeast, they already moved to Thailand as a refugee. Sometimes they move to Thailand as a migrant worker. So who you are going to govern is also the question mark to get the political agreement, in the federal charter, federal democracy charter, principle as well. So it means federal democracy charter is very good, and also it's really great to see the negotiation in the elite political level, but in the ground level it's not very much practical, to see the people changes, especially a democracy the demography changes, and also that's political economy setup and the face capital setup and the other as well. Because I'm not criticizing these federal democracy charter on the in the actual policy level, but it's also need to be upgraded, because sometimes in the political level we are fighting too much, and we are negotiating, we're pushing too much ourselves on the separation of power. But for the service of the people, especially the public service, and also a supply chain, and political economy things. Like people need to be connected each other. Like everything cannot be separated, like in the political level all the time, because this is important things like for the people in the daily struggle. Like they cannot live without the support from the other area, because Myanmar is like kind of significant country who has very limited resources for the public service like health and education thing, and also like the other material things. But we are rich in the natural resource, but all are raw, not the purified things like in there. So people are relying on each other in the ground level. So sometimes like it's too much politicizing in the policy level on the demarcation of the states and region, like in the policy level can be a big challenging, like even for the ethnic consultative council, like it might be difficult like for them to survive by themselves in this stage, because they are trying to take like all the responsibility as much as they can. But sometimes like if they cannot manage for the public service, people will easy to criticize them as like, yeah, you cannot do like, and you're the interim government, that you cannot do something, because that happen is, usually in the ethical conflict area, because everyone is struggling and everyone is expecting like from the interim government like about these all supplies and also service like in this stage. So that will be like a create hands and egg issue again in their own administrative and governance level. So like in order to conclude like this part, like this in political level, especially in the elite political level and negotiation, like this federal democracy charter on the race, religion, and the ethnic identity is very clear, and also it's promising to the uh, kind of self-determination, and also like you can create whatever you want for your future. But in the community level and the people collaboration each other, like is the question mark, is also creating like a lot of struggle for the people who are moving their location back to the other place. And after the 2021, it was pretty easy to predict before the 2021, but after the 2021, like everything's changing. The whole country is burning down, people are fleeing to the other place, and all the economic crisis and also like a general struggle is killing the people. So in this stage, like everything is changing in the ground as well.
These are really important points that you're bringing up. This sometimes disconnect, which has been an issue in previous years and decades, and you're highlighting again today between the ground reality and the elites, and then outsiders that are coming in with limited information. And I think it's as you reflect on some of your concerns now between some potential disconnect between the discussions happening at high levels and the reality at ground levels. I think it's worth going back in time a decade and looking at your involvement in the NCA, looking at the peace process, the ceasefire process. And you wrote the quote, "It was designed from the start as an elite driven project, more about managing stability and attracting investment than addressing the root causes of the conflict." And you also reflected the NCA failed because it was, quote, top down, exclusionary, and never created real ownership for the communities most affected by the war. So let me ask you now, as we're looking back on the NCA and we're looking forward towards what's happening now, to what degree are those experiences of the NCA? To what degree can they be a reminder and a lesson for what not to do this time? And do you see a danger or a risk of the current process proceeding in a similar way of the NCA, or do you see this as taking a different track, perhaps having some similar problems, but really fundamentally different at a different time with different people, different conversations, and yet perhaps with, at least as far as being elite focused, that some of the similar problems are developing as we saw then, or just looking at with this current federal democracy charter and the process that it's going through, the concerns that you have. To what degree should the NCA be in the back of our minds and bringing that to bear to make sure that some of those same mistakes don't happen again?
Yes. So for the NCA thing, it's like, I mean, it's also sad to say like that process was failed because that process has a lot of investment. I mean, for me, because it is not only from the EAO, like it's from the, I mean, government at the time, like USDB and NLD, and also the military, like they try to put like an effort to move forward this process, but for their side, like I'm not going to talk about this, but for the ERO, EAO side, it was very much difficult, like to get all the M actors, non-state actors in the same table, like to have an agreement, especially like they pass like all the conference, like in Lokila, Liza, Bansan, like kind of several times, like they try to get the political agreement each other. After that, like they found NCCD, and most of the members try to solve like their internet, I mean, peace building agenda and ideology to create like the new peace process with more sustainable way in that situation. And after that, like a political negotiation happened, and also like their vision was very clear and common, like okay, what, how they would like to stop the war, and let's move back to the federal state, and like let's try to start from the beginning to talk about the peace building issue together with the nation building. So it was quite passionate, like to start, and it was a lot of investment. Like there were a lot of meetings, like and also negotiation in there, and also NC like a ceasefire agreement was pretty comprehensive. For me, like I'm from, I was learning mostly from the technical side of view, and like especially they have like a three category on the UPDJC and the political dialogue, and JMC on the ceasefire monitoring thing, and interim arrangement IAC. So these three things are very clear, like to create like a political dialogue in the more inclusive way for the present, and also like the future and the interim arrangement. But the problem is, my critical point were clear since at the time I was working for the signatory people at the time. It is only the participation and the decision making of the elite actors in the country. So it means like whatever peace process or political dialogue is led by the people who are holding the gun, means people who holding the guns are deciding the future of the country. So this is a little bit sad, like for me, and also it made me really upset, like because I'm not the M actors. I'm working for the peace building world, but I'm just a civilian who would like to support the peace process. There is no space for the civilian like me, but I'm just individual. But the people who are working in the ground, representing the different community, society, like a political party, and the youth group, the women's group, and the ethnic minority group, like they cannot participate in all the political dialogue in that way. So that's a bit different things, like the comprehensive peace process and just the elite peace process. So at the end of the day, like we got a bit lesson learned and experience. That means something happened with the NC after the 2021. No one feel like we lost our peace. That's a big issue for me, because in the Colombia peace process, like people did not recognize this process was a successful or something. They call the referendum. So if we had a referendum, it's going to be the big issue for the NCA process, because all the meetings, all the dialogue, the whole process uh, only like targeting to the bigger community in the political elite level. So at the time, not only the experience of these EAO, the military and the government and the parliament, and also it came from the influence and agenda from the, I mean, international community as well, especially like a different kind of the donors agency are trying to impose this process to be more elite based, and try to find like the major solution in there. After that, like they can do different kind of the national dialogue in the community level as well. So, but I mean, ideally, this process was pretty good in the beginning, but after, I mean, signing the union accord, or in the union accord first time, they did sign like a union accord, but no one feel happy in the community because they never belong to this peace process, and no one know that, like, oh, this is 21st century pen loan, and okay, it is happening. The billboard are in everywhere in the big city. They just know that, okay, this is the peace process, and they don't belong to the peace process because all the people think like, this is none of our business, and this is not going to change our life, and we are trying to deal with our own economics struggle. We are trying to deal with this. So that's happened. That create the other layer because of limited participation of the civilian in there. But I have a clarification on that side as well, because when we are talking about civic participation in the peace process, everyone was thinking like, okay, put everyone in the room. That's impossible too, because uh, civilian participation does not mean to include all the people in the meeting room. It means like, there are a lot of layers in the community workers. There are a lot of social class representative. There are a lot of representative working on their specific issue, right base, sometimes regional base. So it need to be included in the policy level as well. Otherwise, that things might be problem again. One, they would like to give the message to the public, like, because the public always experience the top down changes, in our society. Even for the democracy, we always recognize ourselves, just for just the spoon feeding experience of the democracy. It means like somebody is spoon feeding you, you feel like, okay, this is democracy. We did learn from our experience, but in the beginning we got the spoon feeding from someone else. So everyone recognized these experience and expectation from the people. That's why that they have confidence to do this elite based peace process in there. But at the end of the day, we discuss about this peace process just recently, and we feel like NCA is not fail in terms of the framework, because that framework can be integrated for the peace process again, like if we have a ceasefire agreement, if we have a political negotiation. But it will not be success if they have tried to do with the same process again, because no one belong to this process, especially from the community, and no one is going to support in that stage. So you might be celebrating in that side in the elite level. So that was the experience, and then the challenges with the NCA and the current federal democracy charter and federal nation building has a little bit progress, compared with the NCA process, like a civil society group, and also the youth and the women participations are very high in there. And it's pretty, I mean, impressive, to include this kind of group. But ideally, we still have we means a Myanmar political, I mean, community, or Myanmar, I mean, the peace building community, they still have the ideology to promote the elite based process are only the answer for the nation building of the Myanmar. Because I was the one who tried to promote comprehensive peace building in the country, that can create a more sustainable peace building and nation building in the country. Especially I was trying to give some of the I mean, case study and the learning from the different country, even in the region. But it might be differently, coping different I mean problem, from the different experience. For example, we have a lot of learning from the for the UPDJC, in the past, kind of case study on the security sector reform, which is mostly on kind of European country, and sometimes it's very developed state, like federalism. Everyone is studying or learning about Canadian federalism, U.S. federalism, and Germany, and Switzerland. There's nothing relating with the country in a basic way. because Myanmar is very unique, and also they have a different experience and different perception on the armed struggle, and also the people experience, and also people socio-political economic setup is totally different with this Western, political culture, and also economic situation is totally different. So why when we try to capture the significant example uh, for the peace building work, it's still going to be a big problem again in the future, because most of our reference country for the policymaker try to manipulate us in that way, like an elite-based process that can work very easily, stop and let's talk each other and stop the war, and let's create each other and let's cover that state and region together. Like this is the only answer they try to find in their policy level. Whatever, if they are still promoting the elite level political dialogue, the solution will be the same. Okay, it might be we might see all the ceasefire agreement with all the stakeholder might happen and stop the war and peace process again, and few years later refighting again, and kind of dictatorship happen again, the coup happen again. So that kind of cycle will happen again. It will come up again and again, because this is none of this is none of their fault, especially from the opposition like EAO, or the other political party in that level, because elite-based process cannot guarantee the people life in actual way, because there is no elite political leaders can represent everyone in the country. Even for the NLD, I don't believe NLD is representing every single life in the country. They are they are highly populated, highly supported political party, and everyone recognizes NLD has a huge supporter in the whole country, and also people love their leaders in there, and it's nothing can stop supporting to the NLD in some of the area, but it does not mean they only can decide all the future of the country, because it's going to create another layer of the problem as well. And the final things that I would like to add in this question is after the 2021, the rise of the political engagement and political participation on the young people in the policy level is very high, and the young people has their own political agenda to craft their own nation. For example, if we are seeing a different political ideology, some people are supporting the liberal democracy in that way, and some people are also very radical, and some people are radical even in the radical political ideology, some people are supporting a social democracy, some people are supporting communism, socialism. So it means we already have a diverse political ideology, group in the community, and now these community leader are holding the gun. It means now they are becoming actors, and they are also creating their own territory in the ground as well. So it means it will be more complicated if we are seeing the political negotiation or peace process as a proper way before. It's going to be a big problem. And and also if we are seeing the security sector, security dynamic and security sector in the country, how many young people are involving in the resistance forces, how many of them would like to create their nation state with what kind of with their how to say how many of these people would like to create their own political agenda in that way as well. So it is more complicated compared with the NCCD era time, and it will be a more technical issue than the grounded issue. If young people are not agree with this elite political process again, it might be a significant problem in the country again. So this is not only about the country. Now the global trend is coming up, because Gen Z try to oppose and they are also start doing a lot of nonviolent movement in the a different country, even in the region, like Bangladesh, Nepal, and now it's in Morocco, and like it's not only in there, in the Philippines. So it means like there will be like a different layer of the generation who are holding the gun, not only the holding the gun, but also involving in the nonviolent movement, will be like will be the emerging like dynamic in the political negotiation process as well. Yeah.
There are so many sides of this complexity which you've gone into. It's really quite extraordinary how much you've been able to share from all these different angles of this process. And there's one particular angle I want to hone in on, and that's because you're speaking so much about the different generations, the different communities, the different ethnic groups in within Myanmar. And I want to take a moment just to look at the outside view and the influences that outside actors can have, if any, or if negligible this time around. And I'm asking this because I recently spent a couple of weeks in Oslo in Norway, and while I was there, I was able to do a bit of a deep dive into Norwegian foreign policy towards Burma over the last 20 years and the way that Norway, the outsized influence that Norway had, particularly in the transition period and in the peace process, and there's a few conversations and quotes that came to mind from from those episodes that we've published and those individuals we spoke to, and the reason why I want to go back and talk about something that happened historically is to be able to bring that into what's happening now and try to understand if these are patterns that are still potential problems or if this is a different thing we're looking at. So I spoke to Auden Agre from the from the Norway Burma Council, NBC, and he described what was happening during the transition as a Norwegian fairy tale. He said that it was a fairy tale in the sense that it was this delusion that by focusing more on elite and siding more with the military administration and individuals, that they would have the power to be able to sway their minds towards a progressive future, which would also, support Norwegian investment in the process. But it was a fairy tale-ish kind of perspective. That general supposedly wanted reform after seeing the past problems of backwardness in the country, when in fact, they were being used to secure legitimacy without really ceding power. I also spoke to Marte Nilsson at Prio, and she described during that period, Norway claimed to have a peace strategy, but in reality, as you've said, it was outsourced and mapped onto an elite state-centric agenda. And then in speaking to Christian Stoke, he noted that Norway's facilitation, it reinforced this elite-driven, military-preferred view of peace as stability, not transformation. And that during this process, one of the real tragedies that all three of these speakers addressed was that Norway had been on the right side of history in so many ways, leading up until that transition moment, and had done so much to, from DVB to other support of Aung San Suu Kyi and the NLD in the early days, had done so much to really side with and understand some democracy activists who were kind of left out in the cold and bypassed for some of these more elite views and actors. And the reason why I'm going into so much detail with this, I mean, we could pick off on Norway now if we want, although they don't really seem to be so involved or have so much of a role these days, but more as an example as a delusional outsider that is misunderstanding and believing certain things and acting accordingly, and then having disastrous effects. So much of your last analysis and comments were focused on the internal matters, and so I'm wondering if we see any danger today of external actors or involvements or international bodies, to whatever degree, that similarly to Norway kind of bulldozing their way into a situation, a very delicate and complex situation that, as it turned out, they didn't quite understand. With the current federal democracy charter and conversations that are going on, how would you characterize the international involvement at this time?
Well, I have the limited informations about the current political dialogue setup, especially from the international support on the peace building work, because some of the country already start initiating different political background people to start uh, political background of the people to start talking about the political dialogue. So it means this already started in some way, a peace dialogue is going might be happen in that way. But this is normal things for me, because during the wartime, everyone is talking about okay, let's stop the war and fight at the end of the day. But this is the one ideology, to fight against all the military dictatorship, or try to fight against fascism. Such a kind of things is the normal way to fight it. But on the other hand, the liberal peace building thing is not like that way. So it is more on negotiate and fight again, and negotiate and try to get so this is more we recognize this process as the past Americana, it's more like American peace building thing, try to push in the policy level, stop the war and negotiate and start doing whatever you want in there so this is this is more how to say used to process in the country of Myanmar. And also most of the state actor and the non-state actor believe that this process can be the solution to deal with that kind of problem during the wartime, or IT conflict time as well. That's why before the NCA, the Myanmar military start doing the bilateral agreement rather than the collective ceasefire agreement. So it means they, if they can do the bilateral agreement, collective ceasefire agreement can be easy. So the most important thing is military to military negotiation. It means kind of these military people can talk each other just to deal something for the nation, and it is like a typical way on the liberal peace building side as well. So I think it's not only about the Western, country influence on the political ideology, to stop the peace, to start the peace process. But on the other hand, we have the neighbor like China and India and Thailand, who already have a different interest on the country. China, India have the interest on the political economy, especially a different mega project, and also a trade and kind of these things in there. And Thailand also have a huge interest on the Myanmar side, especially with the human capital at the moment, because millions of people are migrating to Thailand and working as the cheap labor, and also they are struggling in here. This is kind of the different thing, and also the different interests from the region and country. So it means everyone would like to see Myanmar as kind of Myanmar as a country without the war. So it means they all believe that, because I participate some of the high level dialogue in the past year. It's not only about these peace processing, even in the ASEAN region, they all believe that if there is no war, there will be peace. So everyone is focusing too much on the negative peace building. So at that point, all the regional country believe that these negotiation, especially ceasefire, can create these issue, these problem of Myanmar in one time. So it means a one-time service. Okay, if you guys stop fighting and talk each other, everything will be fine. Just try to talk each other like that. So this is the ideology came from the liberal peace building agenda, especially promoted by the Western country. Sometime in the NCA process, European Union was supporting huge financial support to the peace process, and now it might be a lot of difficulty because of the financial crisis in most of the country in the Trump administration ban all the and cut all the funding from the US, and European Union is also struggling with the Ukraine and the other. That's why in this time there might be not that much influence and support from the Western government like NCA process, but still ideally they are trying to promote this kind of peace process. But on the other hand, and not only the Western governments, the regional government also supporting this political dialogue, especially the elite-based dialogue, because every time they are trying to find a different solution, like ASEAN 5 point consensus, no one is following in their decision making or their suggesting. So they try to find the solution for the Myanmar, but they all believe this peace process can solve everything as the one-stop service. So this is kind of the I have seen so far in my in my head during the last few months ago, because it it is peace building is not a bad things for me, because political negotiation, fighting, then talking is always the best, and civil participation is always important for me. But I've seen so far all the process has been moving forward like the previous situation, and I have a bit concern of the civil participation in all the process as well, because the military already have their own agenda to deal with this peace building work or whatever political negotiation. They will start talking military to military rather than the political decision or political actor. All the political actor will be kick out from the room. It might be a little bit subjective. They might kick out from the room, and in the actual stage, all the actor will be in the room, and they will decide the peace process as well. So this is what we have seen so far in the past, but it's recurring again. So it's kind of the problem in our country is everyone is supporting this recurrent again, especially in the political level, like the civilian leadership and strike committee, and also kind of the political party, youth, and the women. Some other group rather putting their effort in the political level as the major pillar of the political decision or uh, political negotiation. They try to rely on the struggle again. That means struggle things will be manipulated to them as well in the political level. So now the situation create the dilemma: without gun, you don't have a chance to speak in the political level. So that's very sad and upset situation, recurring again from the former and the previous time, like in NCA again. So we we cannot predict the future, like what is going to happen, this thing, but we saw some of the clues, okay, maybe there might be intensifying fighting again, between the military and resistance forces, at the end of the fight. Or if political dialogue happen, that process might be the elite-based process, by seeing the current experience and the current situation of the civil-military relation from the resistance side, and on the other hand, the influence and the manipulation of civil space and civil leaders are very limited in that situation. So in addition, this is not only because of the international community that we have been so far this. The most important thing is our actor, the state actor or the non-state actor, have the different ideology to deal with that things for the uh, for their goals and the vision of their own state as well. So in that situation, we already got manipulated by the Western ideology in the things in the beginning. Because if you are seeing that different non-state actor, they have their own political ideology that came from the different country as well. For example, one particular uh, ethnic Amber organization already got the influence from the one particular country, and they believe this system can be adapted in this in their states or region or in their area as well. So everyone has their own inspiration or kind of the idea country as well. Even for the, I mean, radical and the lefty group, like they have their own idea, political idea state or political ideology or political idea state kind of like a kind of system. So it might be like difficult to to find like a common solution for their common vision in that side, but the common things is already happened in the political level is elite based. Everyone agree on that side. So it means like okay, every representative can solve the issue and dealing with this issue, and that became the rightness in the current political context as well. So it's a little bit dangerous for me, not a little bit, sorry, like it's very dangerous for the civil participation in all the political dialogue, but it might be difficult to include like a civil participation widely, especially youth, women, student union, strike committee, political party who are not very much popular in the political mainstream. They were they will have many challenges to involve in the political dialogue, policy making level widely like the other. Even though they have a chance to participate in that kind of political level, they might feel like they don't have power because they don't have weapons, they don't have amp or something like. This is the bad things in our, I mean, political system, and also it might solve some of the issue in the immediate time, but for the long term sustainable things it might be a little bit difficult. And we got these from the previous peace process, and now we are still practicing. And on the other hand, we are still struggling with with our own resources on the peacemaking process. So yeah, that circle way back again from the influence. I don't want to uh talk about which country is supporting on this kind of political dialogue and what kind of political dialogue, but it's not only about the western country, I mean the regional country and the neighboring country are also pushing these political dialogue as soon as possible, just to stop Myanmar issue in every international corner. This is what they were talking in openly in some of the panel as well. Yeah.
And another major part and consideration of this peace process, which you have written and spoken about quite a bit, has been the political economy. You've said flat out that, quote, political economy and peace are intertwined. Without addressing rural inequalities and including Anya in the federal reform agenda, Myanmar cannot achieve lasting peace. So that's you're really binding these two things together. And we haven't gotten into so much your views on the political economy. We've talked a bit about the Sagaing region and the dry zone and the importance of Anya. But in terms of the political economy and how that relates to the peace process, that's a dynamic we can get into now. And so, you've warned that unless land rights, fair markets, rural credit are built into the federal democracy charter, the entire project could collapse into the same old inequities. And so as as we continue with this complexity, and you've wrestled with many of the challenges and the sensitivities from all these different actors and the way that they're trying to come together and trying to create something lasting that will not revert back to dictatorship. Bring in this piece now as well, and lay out your analysis of the political economy and of the Anya region and why it's so particularly critical in looking at the peace process specifically.
Well, the first thing is I was doing my own research on the political economy setup in Anya region because I have the limited resources to capture all the whole country, especially on the political economy setup and agenda. But it's quite similar, to see in the state level, political economy. I mean, nature, how they are creating especially the market economy in across the country, and also responsible management on the resources, and also resource exploitation, and also environment and a sustainable supply chain process. These are quite similar in most of the area in the whole country as well. And we have seen so far like a different dynamic before the conflict and after the conflict. So that's my point. Like to see, but I have the limitation. I have limited knowledge on the cultural, anthropological side, and all the things. That's why I choose central area like Anya to be part of my research as well. And the other one, like one when I was working for the Anya area, like most of my time when I was visiting, like to my relative and my friends and other people like us. So I always have a concern about their supply chain since in the beginning, because like Anya area was like a kind of, it's only critical like for the people who are living in the ethnic area because of Burmanization agenda, and also military and NLD try to manipulate by using the Burma supremacy and the privilege to oppress the ethnic people, like especially in the political level, economic level. But these political institutions are practicing and getting the privilege on the Burmese, I mean, supremacy and kind of this privilege, but not the Burma people from the Anya region, because this is a huge different things. Like I would like to identify, like a Burma political institution, and the people of the Burma are the quite different in terms of things. So it was very clear like after the 2021, because the people from the Anya region like this, they involve very highly in the anti-coup movement and resistance, and also kind of everything is like as much as they can in there. So it means like they are now on the same page with the ethnic struggle, and also their struggle are also highlighted in the political level as well. So for the political economy thing in that central area is like because we have two major area of the rice production like in the whole country, with supporting like a major supply chain in the whole country. Like Yauri region is the highest production of the rice in the whole country, and the people are like try to rely on this agricultural setup in those region. And Anya is kind of the second biggest production of the rice, and also internally, especially like not for the export, like if, even for the import, like Myanmar is like kind of high consuming on the rice, like in the other Southeast Asia countries. So we have the basic fundamental like a requirement for our livelihood, which is like a rice production. On the other hand, consuming the rice as well. So that was the key things like in there. And the other one, like I mean, it's not only about rice production, like the whole supply chain on the agricultural setup, not only right, this paddy, and also the beans, and like and others like a sesame, like so they have like a different products like it's already there. But after 2021, like the military banned down intentionally all the rice field and the paddy field like in there, and they try to cut like their supply chain. They try to cut their incomes, because the military believe that like these supplies will go to the resistant forces, and that will create another problem for the military to do the operation as well. But like there are more interesting things like to see the political economy set up with the mega project like across the central area as well. So we saw like it's not only about Lebanon copper mine, I mean project, but it's also the Jiaopu Kunming railway station, railway road, like is from, I mean you. Kunming to the Rakhine state, like, but it will cross by the central area, and also the gas pipeline, and there are like different projects like across. It's not only about mega project, like there are small project like across the regions, also very interesting like to capture these things. Because when I was talking about the political economy things, like everyone, I'm also have a huge concern to talk about the political economy, because the first thing is like it came into my mind is like everyone was recognizing political economy is just to it is criticizing them actors. like ERO. Okay, if somebody is talking about political economy, they recognize that, okay, these guys try to criticize ERO, or try to criticize like a M actor in those areas. It's more than that. Like, I mean, political economy thing is like a creating everyone life, like relating with the political issues. Like people are always believe that like their struggle are because their struggle are related to the everyday political agenda, political changes. But all the people believe that like this is, I mean, is very much tricky things, because everyone is believe this is because of the religious thing. So it because of karma, because of Gan. So it means like we are poor because of karma. So that's not true. Like it's everything is related with the political economy, like climate change. Every summer, like they have drought, like they have these problem, like in Magwe region, and every rainy season, the flood happen in there. In the winter, like everything is like is happening in terms of this climate change as well. So this struggle has been like happening like since before the coup, and the people are also moving their capital because of the climate change, because of the supply chain, everything. But surprisingly, after the 2021, no one is talking about political economy setup in that area, especially like except from the humanitarian support and the public service like interim arrangement on education and health. No one is talking about how to create the supply chain and how to create a sustainable economic agenda for the people who live in their state. So that was my argument, like not only for the central area, but also for the other area as well. So it's like when the people are holding the power and they are governing the people, like the first thing in their mind is like to set up the area, the state or their territory, like with a specific economic agenda, especially like how to create like this area or this place to be like smoothly, like how to say, like operate like with a specific supply chain. So first thing is like in their mind, like when they are not considering about political economy thing, the first thing they start doing or they start selling all the natural resources without considering or like kind of all the people life or the long-term impact. And the second thing is like try to create another layer of the political and economic elite we call like a crony and tycoon in those areas. That can be like anyone in the within state or the other. So people who are having the big capital can be rich to deal with this political situation. Like for example, we all talk about like people struggling every day. This is all about the working class. Some social class, especially like people who are holding the capital, they are getting rich and they are getting more money day by day since the 2021. So that's the reality like in there. So for us, like we want like these process to be more localized, and also they need to be more people oriented, like to create like a social kind of the supply chain process, and also a political economy agenda which is sustainable to oversee or to make like a benefit for every single class in the society, not only to make like an elite to be rich and more benefit like from the community after we pass the nightmare. It means like in the federal democracy era or confederate era, like we want to create like a more sustainable economic agenda for our people. And but that's really really difficult to see in the current political context, because no one is talking about this issue, even like kind of high political levels, like when they were talking about this economic agenda about the people, like no one is recognizing on that side, rather than like in very politicized level, like separation of power, federalism, the value, the principle of the human rights. It's very happy to see because everyone is focusing on the principle and the nation state building is very great to see, but on the other hand, it's also need to be included political economy agenda of the state, especially political economy agenda means like my promotion suggestion is like to focus more on the people oriented, and also to recognizing the people struggle in the ground, and to create like a more comfortable and benefit to the people, coming together with a developed developed like a state making, not like in the previous market economy, like because when I was interviewing the farmers from the Sagaing region, they said every time like the policy changing, and they got an experience from the Newin BS, this Burmese socialist program party era, and it's like every time they said like it's all about struggle. It's like they don't feel like we farmer never feel like state is supporting to us. Like we have been struggling, and like even when we feel like okay, rice is very important. When we see the rice not in a raw material way, when we see the rice in the shop, like oh, we feel like okay, this is very expensive. And but when we are making the rice, and like we why we don't get the benefit all the time, like so this is the same situation. These even though they have experience for the different era like BS, Newin era, and also SBDC, SLORC, SBDC, and Thein Sein era, and NLD era as well. So it means like this political economy agenda is the same way and the same practice like since from the 1962 to now. Like there might be a little bit uh, different adjustment, like because in as SBDC era, like they said in their in their agenda, like economic agenda, is market economy, but it's totally not the market economy, and it's not aiming to the democracy. It's more making or giving the chance to benefit the political elite and economic elite and the capitalists, like on that way as well. So even in the energy era, we found that like the significant agenda on the political economy in Mandalay city. Like if you are asking like somebody from the Mandalay about the smart city agenda, like, it's a crazy thing, because this city is really beautiful, and also like a people culture and the people tradition, and like it's very rich, but it's different with a smart city. I mean, because like a smart city, the definition of the smart city is just in terms of the development, or like a clean and the other like but in safety security of the people, like so it means like at the time like everyone was shocked like why this city has been recognized as a smart city. But behind this recognition of the smart city, there are a lot of political economy based agenda, like industrialization in those city, and also like a social capital of the people in this city has a bigger investment or bigger interest for another investor from the other country. The city is the middle of the country that can connect like China and also India with a trade way, like such a kind of these come up with that. But it's all about these political economic agenda are not oriented to the people. It's just oriented, and it's just making profit for the capitalists and the people who are holding the capital in a different way as well. So I mean, in addition, like I just would like to highlight like why the current political process is not, or peace process is not integrating with the political agenda. Is like a first thing, they might not recognize political economy thing is less important. Maybe they might not recognize political economy thing is important in the nation building or political negotiation agenda, like compared with the other political negotiations, such as division of power, division of competency, separation of power, like that. Or the second thing is like they might have a different agenda on the political economy setup, how they would like to create their state. Like for example, like there are different political economy agenda and initiative across the country, because it's very bad to get a reference, for example, some people were talking about the Myanmar special administrative zone, UWSA special administrative zone, and also the other area as well. So this is kind of the critical things, to code this area and their political economy agenda. This is totally not oriented to the people, but some kind of the discussions are also spreading in that political level as well. So finally, I just would like to make these, point on the political economy agenda thing is many people, especially the civil leaders, even are not interested or not confident to talk about political economy things, because it is more dangerous for the civil political leader than the actors in reality, because when the power is shared to, because you can imagine a Myanmar peace process was elite based only for the actors. If another process might come, there might be the similar process, actors, and also a military to military negotiation might happen. At the time, the civil political leader will be struggling with their own political position. But on the other hand, there will be no one who can talk more about political economy agenda from the civilian side. From the ethnic organization, or maybe kind of actor side, they have the different position. This is different, because I'm talking more from the civilian side, because I'm also civilian. So civilian political leaders also need to be focus or include in their political agenda about the political economy things as well. Otherwise, while they are talking about local democracy, local democratization, security sector reform, disarmament, demobilization, reintegration, transitional justice, all the process can move forward and everyone knows about that. But without political economy things, the state cannot survive, especially the people cannot survive. If the people are struggling even in the post-conflict, this is really not fair for the community, and we will lose all of our effort to these kind of changes, especially because everyone already put all of their effort beyond their limitation, and it is very important for them to work for the people in the actual way, not only spreading their political agenda, political ideology, and also kind of practices, norms, and kind of principle, but also to work for the people, not only on the public service, a political economy. These also might, it also need to be considered as the major things for the nation building agenda as well. Yeah.
Right. Again, so much there in that answer and so much to pick apart, and just one thread that we're able to go to now. And that's the thread that I want to explore and pick from what you just said, is the farmers and the food. You mentioned the time that you spent with them, learning from them, talking to them. And it seems to me that what the farmers are going through, there's the impact of that they're facing is really twofold. One is neglect, and one is active harm. And we could pick these apart one by one. You've talked about both. If we're looking at neglect, and you spoke about neglect in your extensive answer, well, just to back up first for a minute and look at what agriculture is in Myanmar. It's not just an occupation; it's a backbone of life. 1/3 of the economy, more than half the population. Yet, as you've written and as you've talked about just now, farmers have been systematically stripped of their dignity, forced to meet quotas, losing land to confiscation, locked into broker systems that left them in endless debt. And even in the 2010s, the so-called transition, when reforms came, you noted about the rural debt and landlessness that remain unsolved. Millions were on edge because of it. And when you would take time to visit villages in Sagaing and Megway, you learn not just about poverty, but about just a deep hopelessness beyond that, that no matter how hard one worked, the system was just designed to crush them. That's the neglect part. And you spoke about that a bit in your response just now. But when we're going beyond neglect and we're looking at active harm, especially since 2021, one of the most chilling patterns that you've documented is how the junta is weaponizing food itself. Farmers have described soldiers burning paddy fields at critical harvest times, blocking access to land, deliberately starving out communities. One farmer told you, quote, "They burned the paddy fields and villages during critical phases. We cannot go to the fields. We are living with such insecurity and concerns." And so this isn't just about collateral damage. It's a strategy to break people's will. And at the same time, these attacks have only pushed those who only wanted to farm into considering picking up weapons. I want to bring in another voice here. We've hosted Thin Lei Win on our podcast. She's a food security expert. And to provide further context, she's pointed out that food insecurity in Myanmar has always been less about availability, more about access and stability. She said on our platform during her interview, quote, "Myanmar is actually a food surplus country, but food insecurity has been a result of political failure and intentional neglect." So now, with the conflict hollowing out farming communities, driving up fertilizer and fuel costs, and forcing people off their lands, she's warned that Myanmar could slide even further into being a net food importer in the future. So then, taking these two things together, the neglect that's happening, as well as the active harm that's being done, where the very act of growing food is essentially becoming a battlefield. Military is deliberately targeting fields, while systematic neglect is already undermining nutrition and access. And this goes in many different directions, from looking at the four cuts and food, having food insecurity, communities having enough food, starvation rates that are happening, as well as livelihood, as well as, as you pointed out, just dignity in the profession that they're doing, and safety and security and simply being a farmer. So what do you think this means for the survival of communities, the wider resistance, and the possibilities of rebuilding Myanmar's food systems in the future?
Yes, thank you. So actually, when I was talking with the farmers, in the beginning, my, uh, I mean, analysis framework was supposed to be more on the peace and conflict, especially on the security sector setup, how they were threatened by this operation and coming up in that situation. But it's also linked with the food security and also the region the security of the region as well, because when I was talking with them, I got the sense of the security of the region in a different way rather than the weapons. After talking with them, because while we are just talking about the food security issues, okay, this is just food security, without rice, you can eat something, but it's easy going discussion, but it's also create me a lot of thinking around beyond that situation. Okay, this is the food security issue, but it's also I recognize that issue is the security of the region and the security of the whole country as well. Because, for example, in central area, we saw that when we are calculating people resilient things, we recognize their livelihood setup in those area, in as I mentioned in the beginning. So they in the central area, their livelihood are majorly working on crops and livestock production, and also industrial labor, remittance, petty trade, and government and military personnel. So we deleted government and military personnel at the time. So it's the other things are relating with this agricultural sector, everything. Industrial labor is also in the previous time, when we asked industrial labor in central area was not only in Yangon but also in Mandalay, but it's also uh, related with the agricultural sector in there. But all the other things are uh, I mean only in their own resources, working in the agricultural sector. And the other one is when we see their resilient. This is a sex to the public service. Before 2021, they don't have that much support, especially the rare support for the agricultural policy from the central government since before, because this area has the second biggest rice production in the country. But at the same time, there's no support on the agricultural things and the loan. For the farmers, most of the loan and microfinance, this is also another problem, creating another problem in Magway and Zagai area. Many microfinance agency will try to there that create a more problems than the support for the farmers in their daily life. And also they have this land insecurity and quality import, high credit debt, and kind of these are it's already happened since before the 2012. And also after the 2012, 2021, we saw that limited health, education, and welfare service is terrible things in there. So in the beginning, your livelihood has been cut off from the cycle and from the supply chain. So people are struggling in that area with a livelihood. Second thing is for the limited saturation of the health, education, and welfare service, how they are going to do. So in this situation, I learn many class, uh, dynamic in there. So the rich people already moved to the big city like Yangon, Mandalay, they can go very easily. So the rich people go there and their family, their people, sometimes they send their children to the uh, overseas and something so they can manage even they're resilient. It's not that much different for them. They are rich already. But for the working class, the farmers, the people, the poor people who cannot afford to send their young people or their son and children, and also all of their thing, they cannot move to big city. They are struggling in there. So it means this is not only creating the whole dynamic of the struggle and the social system, but also create a huge dividing line of the class base. I mean, how to say yeah, kind of dividing line of class as well. So the rich people move to the big city, and also the poor people only live in here. So it means all the capital, fixed capital move to the big city, and then the less capital stay remaining in the active conflict area as well. So this is also the key things as I learned so far. On the other hand, the other supply chain thing are still struggling, even though they have a small trade in there, like a middleman method are stay in there, and people after the earthquake, people cannot go very easily to Zagai region, even from the Mandalay. So it means all the supply chain were more limited. People need to get the stuff with a very expensive price, and they cannot. They cannot afford to spend on that side. So this is the situation in there. But on the other hand, their resilient were very impressive to see. I'm also have to explain about the resilient things. In the NGO world, especially resilient is a little bit subjective. I try to highlight people, surviving skill, and people in Burmese, we call go to kota. But for me, this is kind of go to quota is not that much simple, to see the actual happening of the people, because my recognition on resilient is a state. Uh, the state have the limited capacity, or state do not provide anything to the people, and the people are trying to survive by themselves. So it's nothing to relate with the state, and this is just the survival skill of the people, and that should not be come up all the time, because we have a state, at least even in the resistant forces control area, the state need to work for the people on that service. This is not the people responsibility to do to create this resilience for themselves. This is just a basic survival. So I was a little bit talking controversial like on that side, like sometimes resilient means like it's a kind of fancy word, like a non-state actor or state actor try to create people to move or push something to do by themselves so that they don't need to support on that process as well. But people resilient were very high and very impressive in there. Like for example, when I was talking with like one particular village in that area, and they said like this is kind of impressive things like they have experienced so far. For example, central area has very limited experience on civilian protection, and like the other ethnic area, there is no rescue team, there is no medical staff, and like everyone is fighting in that stage. But on the other hand, like there is no civilian protection mechanism working in the conflict, no early warning, early response system, there is no emergency things, and also there is no documentation on mass atrocity. No one knows that situation. But after that, like they try to engage by themselves and they try to build themselves in that state. So this is more on, conceptual thing. And on the other hand, like international donors, community, these things are also very critical because no one invested in central area before 2021 too much. I mean, like a federalism or kind of political economy or kind of democratization process. Like a central area was not fancy for the international donor. So some of the project might be in central area in terms of the supply chain project, development project, microfinancing, and such a kind of things. So they already have a limited resources in that stage. But I mean that situation also create like a lot of, because they share the experience that they got a lot of experience sharing from the ethnic people because of the cross collaboration ethnic state, especially like some IDP from Kachin, Karenni, like they were sharing like kind of experience and like I just try to do. So in that kind of solidarity also create like a resilient emotionally, like psychologically, like to these people as well. And on the other hand, like they got support from the other, people who are supporting this resistant forces as well. And a significant example that I learned from then is like a one village to village supporting mechanism. This they call like a community shame. Like so they that woman was she was talking to me like a very friendly and like she was laughing. Yes, somebody is burning down to the other village. Uh, they just came to us and we cook for them. And one like they come to our village, we were running, and the other village is waiting for us with the cooking and the food, something like. So it was like a very surprising things like they were practicing in these few years like by themselves. But of course, like it's not sustainable way like to deal with these kind of things without the support from the state. But this is the resilience of the people in the critical situation from the Anya. So sometimes like they were struggling like to support each other, but like their resilience is relying on their own people, and their own people are like supporting each other. But international organization and also like the people diaspora also supporting them a lot. But I mean, this area is a little bit locked down area because it's not very much nearby in the border area like the other states and regions. So it's very difficult to cross the border or to get the supply very easily, except like they cross by in the India or cross by in the Mandalay city, like one the military close like all the supply chain gate like in the Sagaing city, like it was like a big problem too. So I mean like I just want to recall like how they are surviving at the moment like by using their resilience. It's not only about uh to upgrade their resilience, but also like to to find the solidarity like among each other. Like in the beginning, I mean, like I was talking more about ethnic division and also like religious diversity and dividing. Like, but I mean, in terms of the resilient things and resilient concept, like people are so much impressive by seeing in their place. Like for example, even though they are from the different religions or different race, like they are coming together, and also like they try to fight like these, I mean, chaotic situation together with their own resilience, and also very supportive in a solidarity. And like this is the beauty of the, I mean, the people resilient, like as far as I learned so far. And if you are seeing like the people from the IDP camp, like sometime, yeah, tried visiting in the IDP camp is not a good thing. It's like all the time, because you seeing like a lot of the bad experience and also suffering things, but they try to live their life like with a positive way. I mean, I'm just trying to highlight about psychological, I mean, the pillar and the resilience like they have like at the moment. So they try to like build like their strong, I mean, faith on that kind, especially on the revolution. They said, yes, we're going back, and even though we lose everything, we're not concerned about anything for the future. But we will try to build on that situation as the better, I mean, future as well. That's why like I have like a more passion on political economy things. This kind of logical for me to see that, okay, after hearing this kind of word from these people, and like and at the same time the policymaker are not recognizing every single thing for the political economy agenda, especially for those kind of people. It's very sad, like for me, and it's also I'm struggling with my individual, I mean, dilemma, like how should I talk, how should I deliver this kind of message to the policy, because policymakers know very well about this situation, but the most difficult thing is like how they are going to apply on their practical level. And like they have like a more priority on the political negotiation and everything's like the other substance, like rather than these kind of things as well. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us these couple hours. They've absolutely flown by. I've barely gotten through half of the notes and questions I was looking at because your answers have just been so extensive and thought provoking in picking apart all of these details. And I certainly hope we can have you back on to continue the conversation and to be able to go deeper into what we brought up, to hear updates from them, as well as to go into those areas which we didn't have time to today because the time just flew by so much.
Thank you. Yeah. For the final things like that I would like to raise and kind of highlight about the people from the Anya region. I'm not actually talking in here as the representative of Anya or something. I'm just a citizen or just a person, like a normal person from Anya region, like just to talk about like the area, these like so in that sense, like it's always like great, and also it's also need to listen like at the what is happening in the central area as well, because sometimes like when we are struggling like in the political level, like of course everything is very important, like for every single political movement, for everyone. But the life of the people from central area are also unique experience like the other ethnic people in there. But I mean, because of the limitation of the internet, and also the limited connection with this kind of, I mean, international community, academic, and also the other group, like we rare to hear like the people experience from there, especially like the farmers from the central area, and also like the guy like who is just walking on the ground as the helper like in the village. And like the way he shared the experience about this resilience was very, I mean, impressive to record, and also to recognize like their daily basis of survival. And at the same time like how the money circulation thing is very critical in that situation. So even like I used to travel in there, and I was growing up in, I mean, central area in there, but my experience was different because I was growing up in the other big city again, and I just go in there for the summer holiday and something. So everyone experience is different, but after the 2021, like their experience were very valuable. And also I would suggest like you to invite the other people, because in Anya region there are a lot of scholars, some people who speak English, some people who do not speak English. There might be a little bit, I mean, different dynamic in there, but they have a lot of insight with the people of central area, and it will be very interesting to record every milestone of their struggle in there, and that also need to be highlighted uh, to voice off, to reflect in the policy making as well. Sometimes it's required to talk these kind of platform to make a policymaker to listen more on that side as well. So it's not only to voice off these things, but to record or to recognize the milestone of the people resilient in every movement in since the 2021 to present. But it's not only about 2021, since in the beginning everyone was struggling, and also everyone is expecting you for the better future. But on the other hand, these future things is not only meant to be creating the future, but also recognizing your sacrifice, your milestone, your suffering, and also your resilience and your proud movement, in every single milestone as well. That's why I would like to thanks inside Myanmar first for inviting me to speak in here, but I would like to encourage inside Myanmar to invite more people from central area, especially the young people and the women's group, who can talk to you more than me, especially in the very specific detail, and also the experience, and also the milestone, what is happening in there as well. So thank you so much, and I would like to keep engaging with you for the further updates as well.
In a world where Myanmar's crisis has largely faded from the headlines, critical voices and perspectives are often left unheard. And that's where we hope to come in. Through this humble platform, we're trying to provide something unique, an opportunity to share important experiences, insights, struggles, and perspectives in depth, and in a way that few other media sources offer. Our content not only keeps the sputtering global conversation about Myanmar alive, but it also brings much needed attention to those now fighting for their freedom and dignity. So if you value this work and the perspectives we're offering, please consider supporting us. Your contributions help us to continue to amplify those voices and provide the world with the coverage Myanmar so desperately deserves. Visit insightmyanmar.org/donation to stand with us.
Oba yarananda dayananga yaranaya dayanam boda ba yaranam